So it seems like recently there's been this surge in new industry plants, and if you guys remember years ago, there was a wave of industry plants as well. However, what's really interesting to me is that these older industry plants, artists like Jumex, Baby Goth, Ian Dior, their careers kind of failed and people hated them. But when you take a look at some of these newer industry plants, it seems like despite the pushback, for the most part, people love them. So who are they and why is this the case? Alright, so the first industry plant I want to take a look at is the man, the myth, the legend, everybody's favorite white boy other than Netspend in the underground right now, if you could even say he's underground, that being Ian. So right now, it seems like everybody just loves Ian, you know. He just dropped a song on Lyrical Lemonade, or dropped a music video for his viral hit song Figure It Out on Lyrical Lemonade, and everybody's loving it. Ian's a dog, Marshawn's know it, Marshawn knows it, that's crazy glazing. No way, because he's him, you know. People are messing with him, you know what I mean? And there was also this funny moment where Marshawn Lynch just left the moment they stopped shooting it. Legendary, already a classic, people really seem to love Ian. Basically what I'm trying to explain is, although there's some pushback if you read the comments, for the most part people are loving Ian, you know. Everyone's happy for him, everyone thinks this is super cool, you know. You can even go on the Lyrical Lemonade channel and they're still glazing him. Someone said Ian is on a Hall of Fame speedrun, his speedrun must be studied. So he's going up really fast and he's definitely achieving some success that, you know, most people would not be able to come even close to in the amount of time that he's even been in front of people's eyeballs. But he's not the only one. There's also Forbats. Forbats, he kind of just came out of nowhere as well, but even more randomly. So Ian kind of, the way he was quote unquote industry planted was through the underground. So they had this snippet, and you know, Ian has produced Rise ATG or something, and he's kind of been building a sound or whatnot, but he just had the snippet blow up. He was signed to Columbia, this and that, and now he just started getting pushed like crazy. They're buying promo from everybody. They're really pushing him hard. Forbats, it was a bit different. They just had a really good social media marketing team, and they paid certain pages and certain people through certain agencies to push him, and everyone was like, dang, you know. And there was this whole controversy, oh my god, he's an industry plant. No, not of course, dude, if a random guy is just randomly blowing up everywhere, it's not on accident. But you know, it was surprising. However, if you look at what's going on recently, it seems like everybody is messing with Forbats now. You know, his debut album or mixtape reached #1 on Apple Music's R&B charts, and people were pretty positive. Not surprised, Buddy's music have you floating. Forbats' new album is actually good. Forbats' album is a vibe, you know. So that's another example of an industry plant that's actually getting more love than hate, you know. And it's undeniable that these guys are industry plants. Now here's the third person, and you know, I'm not gonna go and say this guy's an industry plant, but whenever someone just drops a song and they go top 5 on Billboard, there's something going on behind the scenes, because you don't go from nobody to a Billboard smash hit out of nowhere, right? So this guy Tommy Richmond is what I'm talking about. He dropped a song called $1 Million Baby that started trending on TikTok or something. It peaked at #2 on Billboard, which is insane. He's talking about winning Grammys. They're printing $100 bills with this guy's face on it. Yo, calm down. He also had the only song in the top 6 on Apple Music that wasn't a part of the Drake and Kendrick beef, which is even, you know, huge artists didn't have that. However, of course, you know, like I said, the moment someone starts blowing up like this, people put up them Tommy Richmond industry plant accusations on the way, and people came to defend him. And I'm putting a stop to it because I've seen Tommy Richmond come in real time. This is 2 summers ago, so he's been grinding. And someone else explained that Tommy Richmond has been releasing music for the past 8 years. Last year, Brent Faiyaz signed him to a deal with Pulse. This is his 5th release under Pulse, 36 in total. He's been at it. Let's put the industry plant talk to rest before it begins. But of course, people aren't going to stop talking about it. But anyways, this was just kind of a little proof and just what I wanted to show you to explain my point that people don't really care about if someone is an industry plant as much anymore. If anything, if you're labeled as an industry plant, now it creates a bunch of buzz and engagement around your name that gets people talking about you. So what is different about these artists that these artists before that were also industry plants weren't able to pull off? So I think it's actually 2 things. I think #1, because people have kind of since we've already kind of crucified all these people for being industry plants, and it's oh man, you're an industry plant, whatever, it's kind of fatigued people's, you know, psyche, And the other thing as well is that the music is just better. So let's start with the first point. So the first point is, back in the day, like, the whole whether or not someone is an industry plant would literally like ruin their, it's like, oh man, he's an industry plant, and people just thought, oh my god, it's so unfair. It's like, oh man, he got signed to a label and just started getting all this push. Oh man, that's the most unjust thing I could ever think of. Like, it would practically ruin their image, and just being seen as one is horrible. And even now, if it's taken to a crazy extent, same thing could happen. But let me give you some examples. There was this guy named Jumex, and I'm not gonna lie, this comes to my second point. His music was trash, but the moment he was pinned as an industry plant, it was like over for him. You know what I mean? It was like, ah, he's an industry plant. And people just hated seeing someone, you know, I've noticed this a lot, like in any industry, like that's hard to get into. If someone sees you get in and they think it was unfair, or they think, oh, you know, you didn't do the work, or at least they think you didn't do the work, they're going to try and find a way to take you down. And calling someone an industry plant in music is the easiest way to do it. But anyways, they called him an industry plant, this and that kind of like became this whole, like, that's all he thought of now. It's like, oh, the industry plant. There's this other girl named Baby Goth, same thing. Her music was also trash. It was all image. And back then, these industry plants, the main issue with them, there's also this guy named Ian Dior. By the way, he's still somewhat successful now. He kind of peaked already, or at least it looks like he has. When he was really popular, that was when the whole like industry plant conversation was going around him. But he was doing pretty well too. And then people found out, whoa, they're like doing all these shady marketing things, this and that. And then it's like, oh, industry plant, right? And his music was all right, actually. I'm not gonna lie. It's not my thing. It's a bit basic, but you know, it was cool. However, here comes to my second point. Oh, sorry, not my second point. Here's what's different between these new guys. I feel like because of these older rappers or artists that were industry plants, people don't really care as much about these new people, you know, like, sorry, being industry plants. Like, you know, I feel like you can only use one sort of argument once, especially if it's very like, if it doesn't totally make sense. Like, I feel like a lot of those industry plant allegations and stuff, all that happened during the time when people loved to cancel people. Do you remember that? When people would like try and cancel YouTubers, this and that, and that was when getting canceled could actually cancel you. It was like, oh my god. I mean, it didn't cancel everyone, but it was way more serious back then. I feel like that type of cancel culture was just more prevalent back in the day. Nowadays, it's not as much. And also, like, people have kind of realized that, yo, industry plants are kind of stupid, you know, that whole idea. Because, you know, we've also seen certain artists be labeled industry plants and they've succeeded. You know, you look at someone like Kid Laroi. Everyone was like, whoa, that's an industry plant. They're industry planting and blah, 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 blah. Number one with Justin Bieber on Billboard, this, that, dropped a cool album, you know, did whatever, crazy success. Billie Eilish, believe it or not, was called an industry plant, you know, she was good. But, you know, at the time, everyone was like, oh, industry plant, and it kind of just ruined these artists' reputations. However, I do think that in some cases, it kind of makes sense when people call someone an industry plant, you know. For example, Ian, I'm sure a lot of like fans of the underground who are kind of like sticklers or whatever, they're like, oh man, like he doesn't deserve it. There are people grinding harder than him. Why is he getting it? Oh, he's white. That's why it's happening to him, this and that. And, you know, I kind of understand that, but at the end of the day, he put in work, right? Same thing with Forbats, you know, or sorry, yeah, pretty much the same thing with Forbats, but not the underground version. He just had good marketing, and you know, if you have good music and good marketing, people are going to listen to your music. And that brings me into my second point. So like, a lot of these artists that are like labeled as industry plants now, they're just way not smarter. Their teams are smarter and their music is a lot better. And that's just the formula for success. So like, if you listen to a lot of like those older industry plants, it was all image, it was all front, it was all marketing, but the actual product, which these people were, their products was horrible. Their music was horrible. Would you agree?
I mean, it was just like the Baby Goth thing, the Jumex thing. Like, there was a big market for emo rap at the time because of like Lil Peep and Juice WRLD. They saw like a big like space in the market for that. But yeah, they just chose people that they thought had like dyed hair and face tats that they could market easily. But yeah, the music was just not good.
But these new people, their music is amazing. You know what I mean? Like, not amazing, it's not like insane, but it's pretty good. It's solid, and they have the image. So I feel like that's why it's working. You know what I mean? I feel like that's what wasn't working. But you can also look at the conversations online about industry plants, and I'm gonna pull some stuff up on the internet, and by that I mean Reddit, and I'm gonna kind of like go through the years and how the conversation seems to have changed. So this is 3 years ago on Popheads. Someone said, does it really matter if someone is an industry plant? So here's kind of what someone said, and they're using a pop example, but it applies to people like Ian and Forbats, the same kind of. So someone says, the term industry plant has become so diluted to mean anyone who is in any way vaguely connected to the music industry or generational wealth in general. being connected to those things alone does not bother me, because what can artists do to help that? They had no say being born into those families. So basically, like, there was a lot of nepotism, I guess, with Billie Eilish. I mean, her parents weren't rich or anything. I think she was just handed opportunities that most people wouldn't get. And back then, another thing as well was like these artists faking their image. Like Jumex wasn't actually like a sad emo kid. Baby Goth wasn't actually like an emo rapper or whatever. So that's what the second paragraph is about. However, when an artist outright lies and constructs a public identity where they act although they came from nothing and built themselves from the ground up 100% organically, then I do have a problem. Artists that are doing that are cosplaying as being disadvantaged for sympathy points and / or edginess, while often doing nothing to help actually economically disadvantaged people. So this is where I think those people, this really applied to those older industry plants, but these new people even a little bit as well. Because like when you pretend like you're, I don't know, when you kind of like trick people into thinking that, oh, I have no help, this is all organic. And a lot of people, they try to like put this hat on, we're like, oh, me, I would never fall for something like that. So I just knew like these guys were industry plants. You know what I mean? Like, I just, I knew this, man. Like, oh, you thought that was organic? Oh man, I used to think like that too. You'll grow up and understand. It's like, all right, bro, all right, we get it. But the casual listener, I don't know. There's like this. I feel like there's like this certain level of fan where they're not like super into like music industry and just like musicians, artists in general, and music in general, but they're also not like super casuals. So when those types of fans find out, oh, like I was tricked into this or that, they kind of like get mad. I'm not gonna lie. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's like because there's like the normies who just find music on the radio or like Spotify recommended. Then there's like the super underground heads, but a majority of listeners you would think are like somewhere between the two, especially these days because of like social media. So like, yeah, when those people hear the industry plant allegations or something, it's like they'd rather listen to an organic artist than like people like Ian or Forbats might not be their cup of tea in terms of like the industry plant stuff. Like the music could be good, but there's just so many artists to choose from. Like there's so many artists you can listen to these days that basically every sound is done by at least like 10 or more artists. You could find another rapper who sounds like Ian, like Heat, or like 4-5, like stuff like that. And then for Forbats, his music is kind of unique, but there is definitely a lot of R&B singers going on those type of like cloudy, like heavenly type of beats and stuff. So I don't know, it's like the market is so big that like a small blip, like a small downplay of your reputation can kind of have like big effects in terms of the longevity of your career and like how much fans are invested and care about you, stuff like that.
I feel like it's also like the extent to which you're being marketed and like how disadvantaged you're portraying yourself as. And let me explain. So like, let's say there's a guy who's getting some traction and he's like basically acting like he's from the trenches or he's disadvantaged, but in reality he's just, he's not like rich or anything, but he's comfortable, right? People will be like, yo, that's weird. That's basically what a cap rapper is, right? That's why people don't like them. Then you look at someone like Forbats, where it's like, okay, sure, he's not like pretending like he's, something he's totally not, or this or that or anything like that, but he is pretending that he's independent. And then it turns out that Kanye's ex-manager, Akon's brother, this person from Epic Records who has this crazy resume, is like is managing him, and he has all this help and he's getting all this marketing and all this push and he has this huge budget. You kind of are pretending, you know what I mean? And same thing with Ian. I feel like Ian is just like a kind of likable person, so he's getting away with it, but there's a reason why everyone is calling him an industry plant. But anyways, let's keep going to like some newer ones. So anyways, there was this other post also on Popheads. This is from 2 years ago, and there's this good comment. I wanted to read it. So basically, like, this is why I kind of think that the term industry plant in the underground is somewhat kind of viable, if that makes sense. So let me just read the comment. Calling artists industry plants isn't a useful term in the mainstream pop space. The idea of industry plants at its core stems from being frustrated with giant corporations for trying to sneak their way into subcultures to monetize them. So this is exactly what, like, I guess people feel is happening with the underground. Like, people feel like these corporations, labels, pretty much like Columbia, is using like this underground scene to just profit and monetize off of like Ian or whatever. You know what I mean? Especially if you just put like a white dude, like they're not people. You can understand why people wouldn't, be super excited when stuff like that happens. But I mean, he's hard, right? Ian's hard. I don't know. And then you can look at like recent posts, and recently, like as I was saying, it's kind of like a thing where people's psyches have been fatigued and they don't really care as much. There's this other post from 8 months ago, and this is like more recent, and you can see people are kind of like just covering up misconceptions, but also you can just see in the discussion that people just don't really care as much. Like, here's what they said: why are people confusing artist development with industry plant and vice versa? So they said, is this because of the decline of artist development? Like, I guess it used to be bigger. Another person 4 months ago asked people, what do you think of the term industry plant? And people were just more straight up about it. They were like, yo, it's nepotism in the music industry, and it's obviously huge and real. And, you know, there's nepotism. And, like, if you think that someone getting a rap career because of their dad is crazy, like, I mean, in the real world, there's way crazier things. But, you know, another person made a good point. Artists who seem to have overnight success have been trying for a long time and finally caught something on, or they made the right connection. And that's kind of what happened with that Tommy Richmond guy. Like, he was grinding for so many years. And, you know, those types of artists actually deserve to make it.
Facts.
Yeah, facts. And the whole like organic thing has always been fake, but I think just people don't want to see someone just jump off or just shoot off with like a little bit of traction. You know what I mean? So anyways, overall, I feel like these newer industry plants, they're mainly able to get away with being industry plants and succeeding because number one, they have talent. That's like the most important thing. Your music actually needs to be good, but also because people just don't care as much. And these newer marketing teams, they actually understand that if they market the artists like this and promote them like this, they will be labeled industry plants, and they're using it to their advantage, you know? Not like blatantly. Like, I believe Ian Dior, like 3 or 4 years ago, he dropped like an album called Industry Plant. That's, I don't know, that's a bit cheesy, but you know, what these guys are doing and, you know, just using it to market themselves and just like saying like screw it and just going all in has been working, you know? I listened to Forbat's most recent project and it was solid, it was good. I don't really listen to much R&B, so I have a friend that listens to R&B and he's like, bro, there's like a million, you know, there's a lot of R&B artists that are good. Ian as well, you know, he's hard. He's super hard. I actually like really love his music. His leaks are like crazy. Snippets too. Seems like he's going to be going far. But anyways, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Bye.